New Hampshire had a good race weekend, and I can actually say that. New Hampshire had a good race weekend here for the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series. And obviously, the trucks were at Eldora, and that was great as well. So let's start with the truck race. Once again, classic dirt track racing. It's never going to get old in the truck series. Slide jobs everywhere and whatnot. And it ended in a photo finish with Chase Briscoe edging out Grant Enfinger to win the, whatever it's called, Dirt Derby or whatever. It was a pretty close finish as well, pretty good finish. And then we move on to the Xfinity Series race, where Stage 1 and 2 was kind of just meh. It wasn't really that exciting. Stage 3 really ramped up the intensity. At one point in Stage 3, I think there was like 5 cars battling for the lead. I think it was like Sadler was there, Bell was there, Keselowski, and like 2 other drivers, Nemechek and someone else. They were all there fighting for the lead, and it made it an exciting Stage 3. Christopher Bell held off a charging Brad Keselowski. Keselowski made a mistake, and Bell actually was able to win the race over the Cup driver of Keselowski. That was a pretty good race as well. And then when we move on to the Cup race, it looks like it's going to get pushed to Tuesday. Rain all day in the forecast on Sunday. Somehow they find an opening in the weather, a break in the weather, where they get the track dried and they get all 301 laps in of the race. We go all the way to the end on the race, and it provides an exciting finish. And from start to finish, I thought it was a pretty good New Hampshire race. We had some battles. We had 7 different drivers lead the race. Yes, 7 different drivers. Normally in New Hampshire, you'll get like 2 or 3 drivers that dominate the race. This race had 7 different drivers lead the race, and the guy who led the most laps led about 94, which is under a third of the race. So that was pretty good for New Hampshire. But so basically, we saw like a lot of cautions towards the beginning of the race. We saw Castle hit the wall in turn 3. Allmendinger wrecked. There was a debris caution at some point. It was actually for debris too. They had the competition caution, and they had the stage cautions. And Clint Boyer towards the end had some sort of issue on the car. I believe he said something with the shock was broken, and he ends up getting into the wall in 3 and 4, and it triggers a late race yellow. Not really late race. It was like with 40 laps to go, but it really hurt. So we'll kind of go from the beginning. We'll talk about the broadcast as well. We'll talk about that first. NBC had a vote. Since they put Rick Allen down to like pits, so they have a vote for what Dale, Steve, and Jeff should wear in the booth. And basically it was between, I think, t-shirts and jeans. There was like some like not really fancy. It was just kind of like, I don't know what to call it, but it was kind of like polo or whatever, like the NBC Sports polo shirts or whatever. Like nice wear, but it's not like too fancy. And of course they had the normal suit coat and a tie. If you can believe it, suit coat and tie had like, I don't know, 10% or 6% of the vote or something. T-shirt had a astounding amount. It was like, I don't know, a lot. Like blew every other option out of the water. And then obviously the polo or whatever it was kind of in the middle there, but not really that close to T-shirt. So T-shirt won by a large margin. And I don't really care about what they wear, because I shouldn't be looking at them with whatever they're wearing. I should be looking at the race. So it honestly doesn't bother me that they wore T-shirts. If they want to wear T-shirts, they should be able to wear T-shirts. I mean, like, well, I don't think they have to. I don't think they have to be too professional, because if you think about it, some of the you want them to be professional, right? But you don't want them to be too professional in their broadcast. You want them to have some fun too, and that's what the race at Loudon was. With those 3 up in the booth and no play-by-play, no Rick Allen, it was a fun time, and I actually really enjoyed the broadcast. I really enjoyed what they had with those 3, and then Rick Allen down in the pits. I really thought Rick did a good job for his first time down on pit road, and it actually showed like he had some character on pit road. He was doing some funny things as well. So, I feel like they kind of found a combination that works pretty well. They had those 3 up in the booth, Rick Allen down on pit road, maybe showing that there are a lot of NASCAR commentators where they got either pulled from pit road to the booth, or they went from the booth to pit road, and it always seems like a lot of them, they do better on pit road than the booth. Point being, Bill Weber was not a great play-by-play. However, he got him down in the pits, and he was doing pretty well. Dr. Jerry Punch up in the booth, he wasn't, he was pretty dull. Got him down pit road, he knew his stuff. obviously it's been the opposite as well, where a driver goes from the booth to pit road and they suck. Alan Bestwick, a lot better in the booth than on pit road. However, Alan Bestwick would just be better in the booth under any circumstance. And Rick Allen seems like he'd go that way. If he was down there on pit road for a few more races, he'd just get better every time. For his first time on pit road in that situation, I think he did a good job. And if they do this kind of this setup again, then it would be I think Rick Allen could get better with each time he's down on pit road. And I really hope they do this again because it was a fun race. It just felt like those three up in the booth, I saw a lot of this describing it. It was like watching a race with your three friends, except your three friends knew a lot about NASCAR. And that's kind of what it was. Those three talked to you and kept it flowing without the play-by-play asking questions to get that conversation flowing. They kept the conversation going off of each other, which I really enjoyed. Steve would say something, then Jeff would, and then Dale would add on to it, and then it just flowed into different conversations, and it all related to the race as well. And then they talked about the race. It was honestly one of the best broadcasts that I've seen. NBC is doing such a great job this season. They're taking NASCAR a lot more seriously than Fox, in my opinion. NBC has gone for a lot of the motorsports route. They have a lot of motorsports under their NBC Sports, and I feel like they care a lot more about motorsports than any kind of sports channel out there. Like Fox, it seems like they're kind of like about NASCAR. ESPN obviously cares nothing about auto racing, but NBC I think really cares, and they're doing a great job this season. Rick Allen, even though he wasn't in the booth, he's been doing a lot better this season than he was the last few seasons. So I think Rick Allen definitely improved in the booth for when he's up there. Adding Dale has really, I think, upped the enthusiasm in Steve and Jeff. I feel like those two have gotten better with the coming in of Dale. And Dale, for his first few races, I mean, he's done pretty well for his first few races, and he's had a lot of enthusiasm. He's brought enthusiasm into every broadcast. He's gotten excited over things where maybe like, and it's not too excited. Like Fox, they get excited and then they start shouting gibberish. They'll get excited. NBC will get excited, and then they'll actually pertain it to the race other than, oh my goodness, oh no. They'll start yelling something about the race and getting enthusiastic about the race. So in my mind, NBC has been doing great this season, and I can't wait to see what they have for the next, how many races are left, but it's a lot of races left. I can't wait to see what they have for the rest of the season because they've been doing a great job, and I've enjoyed watching NBC this season a lot more than I have Fox. I think NBC's done a great job this season. But and they're only 4 races in to their season, and they've had 3 great races. So they've had that added benefit too of only having one bad race, Kentucky. So they had Chicago, they had Daytona, and they had New Hampshire now. That's 3 good races that they've had. So now talking about the race, it was all over the place. You had Martin Truex Jr. winning stage 1, which not surprising at all. He started up front, and it's been one of his better tracks that he doesn't have a win at. So he's looking for that first win at his hometown track. Late in stage 2, Truex's car started going away, possibly the track changing, possibly just his car wasn't that great on a longer run. Chase Elliott ran him down in stage 2, passed him without any, like a Chevrolet passed a Toyota for the race lead to win the stage in 2018. Chevy, I don't know if they're getting back on it or if they just have New Hampshire figured out, because New Hampshire, once again, you can kind of classify it more as a short track than maybe as a intermediate track, but it's good to see signs of improvement for Chevy. They had all 4 Hendrick cars, I think, inside the top 15. A big improvement for them. They have to keep going with it, but if they can keep on this track, they could do a lot better. And Newman was in the top 10. Larson and McMurray really struggled. However, Larson kept fighting. I think he pulled out top 15 at the end, so it wasn't too bad for Larson. McMurray has just been having a horrible season, though. He finished down the 20s, I believe. And Austin Dillon had an issue, I think, on the I don't really remember. He finished down the 20s as well. But if Chevy can keep that up, maybe if they can find something that they did here and kind of translate over to maybe some of the bigger tracks like Pocono and Michigan and, some of the intermediate tracks that they have coming up. They have Kansas in the chase, a lot of intermediate tracks, Vegas, so we'll just see how it goes for the next race. Pocono, that'll tell a lot on horsepower and whatnot because obviously the long straightaway is there. You need a lot of horsepower and you need some good handling because of the 3 different corners. So, Chase Elliott did a great job, though, on Sunday. He started inside the top 10, I think. If he didn't start top 10, he made the last round of qualifying, I think. But he kind of stayed around 10th. They got that competition caution. He took 4 tires on that. He restarted in 15th, got up to 10th. Then they had the Allmendinger crash, I think. And then he worked his way up inside the top 5 and then ran down Truex. It was very impressive with how that 19 did. They finished top 5 on the day. So that was actually very great for Chase and the whole, that probably gave them some confidence. Like, oh, we can still compete. We won a stage. We led laps. We led, I think, over 20 laps or something. And we held off Kurt Busch and we passed Mark Truex Jr. We passed a Toyota, held off a Ford for that stage win. Not all is lost yet. Once again, they have to keep making improvements because they're not there quite yet, but they're getting closer, I think. We'll just have to see, though. Once again, it's Loudon, track that's very different from others, so we'll just have to see how it goes. But, and then Stage 3 happened. Stage 3 was once again a wild, wild time. Eric Almirola and Kurt Busch were probably the 2 best cars in stage number 3, and Kyle Busch was kind of just lurking back there. I think he was like 3rd. Kevin Harvick was like 4th, and Truex and Chase Elliott, I think, were like 5th and 6th or something. So they had green flag pit stops. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. pounded the wall in turn 3. No yellow comes out. Part of me believes NASCAR did not want the yellow to come out there because it would have messed everything up. It would have messed, or maybe they just didn't see debris. I don't know. But he gets it to pit road too. That's we'll compare the Bowyer and Stenhouse thing in a little bit. But just want to say Stenhouse did get to pit road. Wasn't trapped down the racetrack. So pit cycles are going through. Clint Bowyer, from running inside the top 10, has a penalty. Pitting outside the box, that penalty is a 1-lap penalty. And afterwards, some issues on the car drop him back, and he actually hits the wall a little bit later in the race. He ends up out of the race. Kurt Busch was battling for the lead with Almirola. He actually got passed by Almirola just before pit stops. Kurt coming into his pit stop. Blaney's about to leave. They both hit the brakes and stop. Blaney stopped in his pit stall. Kurt stopped on pit road. And finally, Kurt decides, okay, I'm going to pull in front. Cost him so much time. He was stopped for so long. And he fell back to like 5th, battling with Chase Elliott, I think. Like, it was horrible for Kurt. He fell back so much. So, basically, at this point, it's Almirola's race to lose. He has a nice gap. Harvick actually beat him out of pits because Harvick pitted sooner. However, Almirola got right back by Harvick, and with how good the 10 was on long runs, he thought it was over once he got out front. But Bowyer, with his issue, hits the wall in 3 and 4 and gets trapped down the racetrack. The yellow comes out. Now, there's a lot of debate about whether the caution should have been called or not. People saying, well, that's fabricated BS. NASCAR didn't throw it for Stenhouse, and they threw it for Bowyer because obviously it's late in the race and Almirola's just going to pull away from it. In my mind, they threw it for Bowyer because, A, they say they saw debris when looking at it slow-mo. They probably didn't see any from Stenhouse. B, Bowyer was trapped down the racetrack. He couldn't get low and get down to pit road. It happened at a different spot, too. It happened, like, more in where they would be racing, so there possibly could have been debris in the race group. Stenhouse kind of happened entering turn 3, so, no one's going to go up there on their own accord. And Bowyer was trapped down the racetrack. Stenhouse got right down pit road. And C, if you think about it, the more fabricated thing would have been throwing the caution for Stenhouse than for Bowyer. Just think about this. Middle pit stops. Cars are on pit road. Harvick, Kyle Busch are on pit road, something like that. Stenhouse hits the wall. The yellow comes out. Those drivers are trapped a lap down. And then you got some drivers that were running maybe around 15th on the lead lap. If they throw that yellow, they haven't made pit stops yet, but they're on the lead lap. Everyone else is trapped a lap down. They come in there, make their pit stops, and then those, say, 6 that stayed out are right now you're race leaders. Almirola's trapped back 7th, but behind all the lap cars, taking the wave around. In my mind, it would have been a lot more fabricated if they threw it for Stenhouse during green flag pit stops. Would have changed everything. So once again, yellow comes out for Bowyer. Everyone comes down pit road. And SHR does it again. Kyle Busch wins the race off pit road. Almirola falls back to 3rd on pit stops. On the restart, he spins the tires. And I don't mean just little wheel spin. He spun the tires a lot. And in doing so, Truex restarted 4th, and it got Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Mark Truex Jr. 1, 2, 3. And that's when everyone lost their minds. How could this be happening again? How could it be these 3 again? They get so lucky this season, and this keeps happening. However, it produced a good finish. Turns out, when the big 3 are battling each other, it's a fun race. And that's kind of the point I'm saying about this season. This season, it's been those 3 winning races, right? However, when, say, Harvick wins, Kyle Busch and Truex are battling back outside the top 5. And if Kyle Busch is, it's Harvick and Truex back outside the top 5. If Truex is, it's Harvick and Busch back outside the top 5. They have not really battled each other up until this point. Their cars were not that great. Their cars were maybe top 5 cars, but they weren't winning cars in my opinion. So when they start battling each other, it provides for more excitement towards the end. And that's what we saw. Kyle Busch was leading. Harvick's car was better on the longer run. Harvick knew that. He kind of saved his stuff and started running down Kyle Busch. It was on his bumper, running on his bumper, hitting him, trying to bump him out of the way. Finally, entering turn 1, he gets a run through the middle of the corner and never lifts, and he hits Kyle Busch up the racetrack and goes on to win the race. Once again, another great finish for the season. Kevin Harvick wins. Kyle Busch finishes second. Kyle Busch actually pretty mature about it, said, how you race, how you're going to get raced, stuff like that. He was actually pretty calm about it. Really surprised he didn't storm away from the media. But we'll just have to see, though, when Kyle is running second, if he does anything to Harvick, if he's on his back bumper for a win. But think about it. Pocono last season, Kyle did that to Harvick in turn 3. I don't know if Kyle remembers that, but maybe that was just some payback from Harvick for doing that. But overall, another great race for NBC, another great race for NASCAR in the last few races. They've been getting really good races. Kentucky was kind of that meh race, but overall, Chicagoland, Daytona, and Loudon have been 3 fantastic races in the last 4. So we have Pocono next. So that's that race is actually really weird because most races are either like really really good or really bad. Pocono, they can have some all right races. They can have some good points and some bad points. It'll be interesting to see how that race goes. Just see how it goes. After that, we get Watkins Glen, a road course. Should be fun there. And I believe it's like Michigan, Bristol, Darlington. Maybe Bristol, Michigan or swapped or something. I don't know. But and then regular season under Indianapolis. So we'll see how the race of the chase goes. Once again, a lot of spots open for points. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. The lead in 16th has grown. Bowman has edged it out over Stenhouse a little bit because Stenhouse had his issues and Bowman had his issues, but fought back to finish top 15. He finished 11th. So great race at Loudon. Great race for all 3 of the series, honestly. Looking forward to see how Pocono and all that goes. And Iowa, I think Xfinity's going to Iowa on Saturday, so that should be fun to see as well. Otherwise, I'll see you guys for the next one.